I gotta be honest with you guys. I am way more fired up for today's show than I have been the last 10 days. And that's not to say anything bad about conference previews and tiering the teams and kind of spewing out your thoughts heading into the season. That stuff's very important so that you all know where I stand with X team, X player, X coach heading into the year. It feels a lot of just me regurgitating information I have spent the previous 3 weeks saying to you all. So I feel great that that is all done now. And we can shift into more fun topics. We've got games this week. Hello, it's week 0. We've got college football in 3 days, if I can count after hearing this. We're going to be in Dublin, Ireland, Kansas State, Iowa State. So I'm just glad to have all of that done, conference previews done. I think the show will be much better moving forward than it had been those previous 4 episodes. And not to say they were bad. I hope you all enjoyed them if you did. So not only that, I slept in my own bed last night for the first time in 10 days. This show is being recorded at a reasonable hour. The previous 3 episodes were being recorded at 11 p.m., midnight, and 11 p.m. I think I've got that right. Big 12 preview, or Big 10 preview, ACC preview were done before I left town for 10 days. Big 12 preview was done last night by the time I'm recording this show. I'm just happy to be here with you all at a reasonable time, talking really fun stuff, having fun conversations. It's been 2.5 minutes. Welcome to the Spring Blake College Football Show. I am Spring Blake. This here is most definitely a college football show. Your favorite ball knower's favorite ball knower show. Your favorite ball knower show by a ball knower? I don't know. I don't know which one I like. If you are here for the first time, first of all, welcome. I hope you enjoyed my long-winded rant of how excited I am to be here today. If you are listening via podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get it, first of all, thank you again. Please subscribe to the show. Leave a 5-star review. Interact with this show as much as you humanly can possible. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you again. I want to grow this just as much as I want to grow the podcast form. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Go and like every video that I've done thus far. You don't have to watch the whole thing. Click it, counts as a view, hit a like, go to the next one. I've only got 10. It shouldn't take you that long. And when you keep coming back, just make sure you do it for every episode moving forward so you don't have to backtrack like you are having to do so after you listen to this episode. I think that's everything I wanted to say. If you're returning, that's for our first times. If you're returning to the show, thank you. Make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you have liked the video or the channel or the podcast or given it a 5-star review, all of that stuff. I say it every time. The support that you give me, I will give you tenfold in terms of content. And we are here with a big episode. We spent the last 4 episodes talking about the national title contenders for each conference, the playoff contenders, the frisky teams in the playoffs, the bowl-bound teams, the teams that need work. All that's out of the way. I regurgitated to you all across 4 hours of content my thoughts on each team. And now we are here to talk conference champions, college football playoffs, and just finishing up on some preseason stuff with my good old buddy Chat GPT. So a really fun show coming up. Make sure as well, too, I already mentioned how you can support this show wherever you are consuming it. Make sure you head to my social media as well, too. That's Twitter and TikTok primarily at Springblake'S CFB, Spring Blake College Football Show. Show some love there as well. Now, as I will do when we have to, at probably the beginning-ish of every episode, self-scouting. I took a week to sit on my choices, tiers for the SEC, Big 10, ACC, Big 12. And there are a few things that I want flipped from where they were in our initial breakdowns. Not too many, really just, I think, 3 big ones that I had here. So I want to go through and get those out, just, sitting on ideas for a while. Okay, maybe I feel better about this team after another week of fall camp, or maybe there's an injury that I didn't get to account for when we pre-taped. All of that stuff. So let's start in the SEC. I have decided to make a minor flip, and it really isn't impactful for anything we're going to discuss today. I flipped Tennessee and Ole Miss. So Ole Miss was my number 9 team in the SEC heading into this year, and they were in the frisky, sleeper, I kept calling it the sleeper / sneaky tier. It should just be frisky. I like the word frisky. Frisky's cool. Frisky is fun. The frisky tier, I had Ole Miss as the team starting off. I want to bump them up into the conference title contending / playoff tier. Now, they will just be at 8. They'll be the lowest team in that tier. I flipped them with Tennessee. These are 2 teams that I have doubts for. Obviously, they're not in the top 5, 6, 7 of this conference. I feel more comfortable with what they have to redo in Ole Miss, what they have to rebound from in Ole Miss, than in Tennessee. In Tennessee, it's not just the quarterback. It's also the offensive line. It's also a really talented running back. I'm not totally sure about the receivers. The secondary is either banged up or, maybe have a small, what's that called? A small suspension, team-issued suspension to start the year. There's a lot more questions I have at Tennessee than I do at Ole Miss right now. And at Ole Miss, I'm really backing into the Austin Simmons hype more than I am the Joey Aguilar. So again, not a major change. I shouldn't have spent that much time on it. Tennessee down to number 9 in my SEC standings. Ole Miss up to 8. They flip tiers with each other. Big change here in the Big Ten. I am flipping the Oregon Ducks and the Ohio State Buckeyes, elevating the Ducks into the conference title game for a rematch with Penn State and pulling the Buckeyes out of the conference title game while still being in the national title contending tier. I went with my brain over my heart in this first pick, and my heart, it has been calling for me to change it since. I like Dan Lanning more than I do Ryan Day. I like the coordinator duo at Oregon more than I do the coordinator duo at Ohio State. Or maybe I have fewer questions with the coordinator duo at Oregon than I do Ohio State. Although I do think Will Stein, one of the best offensive coordinators in the game. So the coaching tree, I like and trust Oregon more than I do Ohio State. And as we've gone along with fall camp, I now trust Dante more than I do Julian Sayin. And I just believe there's a little bit of a shift here where Oregon has taken over that spot that I had Ohio State in. So I trust them more. I think they'll skate through a pretty easy schedule, that being Oregon. And Lanning will now go 2 for 2 in Big Ten title appearances, again against the Penn State Nittany Lions, just like they did in 2024. So big change in the Big Ten. ACC, no notes. It's perfect. I'm perfect. I didn't screw up at all. You'll see the ACC standings by the end of the year. It will match my standings. You'll say, wow, Blake got Clemson, Georgia Tech. He got Miami 3rd, Louisville 4th. I forget where I went after that. Maybe Florida State 5th, SMU 6th. Is there another team in there? I think that was it. Either way, ACC, no notes. Loved it the way it was. And now for the Big 12. I am a big, fat, scaredy cat. I'm flipping my Big 12 title game, just like I did in the Big 10. I am pulling the Utah Utes in and taking the Texas Tech Red Raiders out and down to my 3rd slot in the conference. Much like in the Big 10, it came down to trust for me. Not only do I trust Kyle Whittingham 1,000 times more than I trust Joey McGuire, I also trust the defense in Salt Lake City. Now, I think it's fantastic in Lubbock. I think it has the chance to be absolutely fantastic. That being said, all the pieces still have to come together. The pieces don't usually matter in Utah if they come together. They always come together over the last however many years. Death taxes Utah. And then I think the offensive coordinator quarterback duo coming over from New Mexico to Utah lowers my level of concern for the Utes offense. So, again, I'm a scaredy cat. I understand. I was so strong and built into the hype of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I think they are the most talented team. If I'm doing conference title predictions, I want to go with guys that I trust, and that is why I've swapped out Ohio State for Oregon in the Big Ten, and swapped out Texas Tech for Utah in the Big 12. So that is all the changes we have to make now. It is time to go into conference title games and winners. Now, just a refresher, as I just said, in the Big 12, we've got Utah taking on the Baylor Bears, who I had finishing first in the regular season. We have an ACC rematch from week 3 of the regular season where I have the Clemson Tigers taking on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. In the Big 10, again, we made the recent switch. It is going to be a Big 10 rematch from the 2024 season. Dan Lanning's Oregon Ducks, James Franklin's Penn State Nittany Lions, two of the best teams in the nation. And then after having either Alabama or Georgia take the SEC crown 10 out of the last 11 years, that will be extending to 11 out of the last 12. Give me a Bama and Georgia rematch from week 4 of this year's regular season in Atlanta. So those are my 4 conference title games. Now let's get into the winners. So first up in the Big 12, it shook out in a pretty unique situation. Baylor and Utah will have just faced each other a few weeks back in Waco. Now, when that happens, I always love taking the team who lost the first time to get revenge in the sequel. But since I can't tell you who won this first game just yet, that does me no good. Even if Baylor did win the first bout, I am going to back them this second time around and make them my Big 12 conference champions. And here is why. Outside of hosting Utah, the second half of their schedule is incredibly easy. While Utah finishes its regular season with 3 tough opponents. They finish Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas. 3 teams I think will be in the mix for this conference title picture. I think Utah might walk into this one a little sluggish, hampered, and will have to travel much further for the game than the 95-mile drive Dave Aranda's team has to take. So, like I said, give me the Bears to top the Big 12 and lock in a spot into the college football playoffs. Into the ACC, the story that is Georgia Tech's 2025 campaign will be one of the most fun things we talk about all season, just like it was for SMU in 2024. But you are crazy if you think I'm taking anybody but Clemson to wear the ACC crown. So give me the Tigers to capture their 9th conference title of the last 11 seasons. Hats off to Dabo Swinney, one of the best teams in the country. They will be a force to be reckoned with in the college football playoffs. Now in the Big 10, Oregon and Penn State do not meet in the regular season. So this is our only non-rematch matchup of conference title weekend. I am so very confident in Dan Lanning having this team humming by the season's end. It might not be the hottest out the gate, kind of like last year. You know, who did they mess around with? Boise for a while hung around. And then I think was there a North Dakota that hung around with them for a while? A South Dakota? One of the Dakotas hung around. They never really start hot, but the finished product will be, again, one of the best teams in the nation. Even then, as much as I love Oregon, there is something special brewing in College Station for Penn State this year. Give me the Nittany Lions to get over the hump and their first conference title since 2016, the start of a tremendous postseason run that James Franklin and his team will be going on. So far, I've got Baylor winning the Big 12, Clemson winning the ACC, and Penn State winning the Big 10. Now for the granddaddy of them all, it is Georgia versus Bama in the SEC title game for the 5th time since 2012. I am so in on both of these teams, and frankly, who shouldn't be? It's some of the best rosters and the best coaching staffs in the nation. I think this year Georgia's offense might rebound to the quality it was a couple years ago when they had Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. The tight end receiving room will be the strength of the offense, and they will run the damn ball. And I also think Alabama's roster, as I've said a couple times through the history of this show, is the best roster in the country. Now, Kalen DeBoer is new to the SEC. He's only in his 2nd season, but he is not new to winning big-time games. He is a perfect 6-0 against Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, and Steve Sarkisian as a head coach. This Alabama season is a special one, so give me the Crimson Tide over the Bulldogs, and Kalen DeBoer can take one of the biggest bows of his lifetime, bringing Alabama all the way back to conference glory in the SEC, while Kirby Smart, it wasn't a Nick Saban problem, it's an Alabama problem. Those are my 4 conference champions. I think we're in for some really great games, great seasons, and that is what is going to shape a really awesome college football playoffs. How about that? Conference champions. Clemson, Baylor. Baylor's a fun new one. Penn State's a fun new one. Clemson won it last year. And Alabama. Bama is back. All right, so before we get into my college football playoffs, and I'm so excited to break this all down and give you my 12 teams. I've got a perfect list. I tweeted it out Monday night. There is nothing wrong with this list. It is perfect. When you see the college football playoffs kick off in December, right at the end of December, January, these will be the 12 teams playing in it. A couple of overarching themes and notes I had while filling out this playoff bracket / just general thoughts on the college football playoffs. I do believe this season the playoff committee is going to favor the SEC more than it did a year ago. I think, as we've talked in these conference tiers, the depth and the quality of the conference is in a much better spot than it was in 2024. Yes, you still have teams like Ole Miss and Tennessee that are kind of frisky. They should be in that 9-8 win tier. But then you've got guys ahead of them that I think have all jumped them. LSU has jumped them. Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Florida. They are all now in this top tier of we can win the SEC. Joining Georgia, Bama, and Texas. So yes, because of that, I think this conference and I think the playoff committee will not favor teams in the Big 12 or ACC with as much respect as they did a season ago. I don't want to drop any hints. I also think it's going to happen in the Big 10. I really think the quality of team in the SEC this season is significantly higher than the quality and depth of team in the rest of college football. Now, last year, we had 12 teams in the Power 4 conferences that finished with a record of 10-2 or better. And you think of a 12-team playoff, you've got 12 teams there with 10 or 2 or better. That left out a lot of 9-3 teams because you could debate and argue reasons why 9-3 shouldn't be in. I do not think that will be the case this season. I think that the competition or the level of competition in the Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC is far too strong to repeat those numbers in 2025. And I also think that the ACC just doesn't have enough quality teams at the top to match 10-2 seasons outside of Clemson. And even if they do, I think we will look at a 10-2 team in the ACC a lot more differently than we would a 9-3 in the Big 10 or the SEC. So that being said, get ready for some really, really tough debates over teams with 9-3 records as we get closer to the college football playoffs. We don't have to worry about it just yet. We'll have to worry about it at some point. There's going to be a lot of 9-3 teams that maybe were in the playoffs last year, were on the bubble last year, maybe teams that have taken a step back to 9-3. There's going to be some really tough conversations. I just don't think you're getting 12 teams in the Power 4 conferences with 10-2 records or better. Maybe it's 8. Maybe it's 6 if there's utter chaos. I think we're going to be sitting here having way more difficult conversations than we ever did last season. So let's see. Do I have any other notes? Oh, yes. One more note. I did struggle massively. Now, I said I did perfect. The bracket is perfect. I did a perfect job. That being said, I struggled massively with these at-large bids. I made a pool of about 10 teams that could be in play for what I considered to be 2 final at-large bids. I filled out everything. I had 2 slots left, and I had 10 teams, and I said, I didn't like it. This year, as I've said a couple times already, is going to be complete and utter chaos, and it will be fun as hell while we're having the ride getting there, but it's incredibly tough to sit here and try to tell you, oh, I did a perfect job. I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't do a perfect job. Now, I covered up my mouth if you're watching on YouTube. I didn't do a perfect job. You didn't see me admit that because I don't want to admit that. I'm not going to admit that. I did perfect, but I didn't. All right, so let's see. We're 20 minutes in here. I've got 12 teams here that are going to make the college football playoffs in the 2025 season. Let's start at the top. I've got the Alabama Crimson Tide as my number 1 overall seed. The SEC champs in a year that I said will favor the SEC more than years before. The Crimson Tide, number 1 team in the college football playoffs. That leaves my Big Ten champs, the Penn State Nittany Lions, as my 2 seed, as I confidently believe that the top 2 seeds in the college football playoffs will belong to the conference champions of the SEC and the Big Ten. Now, that's not to undersell the Clemson Tigers, who are my number 3 seed, a group that I think will feast against a weak ACC all year. And while that may make you think they are maybe lesser or haven't been tested, they still have the roster and staff capable of winning the whole dang thing, definitely worthy of being there at number 3. Now, at number 4, we no longer have to put conference champions as the 4 seed, so I'm going to give that spot to the Georgia Bulldogs instead, who in my season predictions finished with the best record in the SEC, had a narrow defeat to Bama in the conference title game. If they are one of those 10-2 seasons and they finish with a close loss to Alabama, I value that a little bit higher than someone who maybe didn't get the extra loss in the title game, or maybe one that doesn't even have a conference title game. So Bulldogs, my number 4 team in the college football playoffs. Number 5, that is where we will throw our Miss Independent Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Yes, I know the schedule is more difficult than it was last year. The team is better overall and more experienced than last year's. Tough battles early on in the year. You got to get through Miami, Texas A&M. If there's one question, it's the quarterback. I think the team is phenomenal. I think an 11-1 season gets them in the 5 spot. No questions, no ifs, buts, doubts, whatever you might have. Notre Dame, number 5 in the college football playoffs. So we're at our 6th seed, and I can already hear the haters screaming SEC bias in the distance, but I just think it's going to be that kind of year. Give me the Texas Longhorns, who finished 3rd in the regular season standings of the SEC, narrowly missing out on the conference title game. Maybe it's a tiebreaker scenario that keeps them out. If they're a 10-2 team, I value that higher than the teams below. They will be my number 6 seed in the college football playoffs. All right, and now we can all take a deep breath. I've got the Big Ten championship runner-ups, the Oregon Ducks, here as my number 7 seed. So yes, 3 teams ahead in the SEC before I get to my second Big Ten team. I think that if Texas and Oregon finish with the same regular season record, something that I am predicting, they will favor Texas due to the harder schedule. Still a really impressive season for the Ducks. They are here at number 7. And just like with Texas at number 6, I just can't see a world in which Ohio State is not in the playoff picture, even if they don't make the conference title game. So let's get them squeezed in right at number 8 here, despite missing the conference title game for what I believe is like the 5th or 6th season they haven't won it. Either way, Ohio State, my number 8 seed in the college football playoffs. Now at 9, I will have my Big 12 champs, the Baylor Bears, here. A spot fitting for what I predict to be a 9-3 conference champion in a crowded Big 12 conference. This makes our first matchup of round 1 of where we would see the Baylor Bears and the Ohio State Buckeyes. I would assume many would think it's an easy first round matchup for the defending national champions. Now we're going to jump. So that's 1 through 9. We are going to jump down to number 12 here before we discuss 10 and 11, because the conversation surrounding those two, I think, is more deserving of the drum roll than the drum roll for our G5 spot. I promise you all this. It will be our second rule of the show, the first being the hat stays on, the sleeves stay off. Until the end of time, I will never pretend to know what is going to happen with the lone G5 spot in the college football playoffs. Thankfully, I don't have to, because I graduated from the pristine university that is James Madison, and therefore they will always be given the honorary spot for the G5s in the college football playoffs. So my 12 seed, the James Madison Dukes, Bob Chesney at head coach, Matthew Sluka or Alonzo Barrett at quarterback. Great team, really easy schedule. Just got to get through Louisville in like week 2 or 3. JMU, Dukes, my number 12 seed in the college football playoffs. All right, now for the fun stuff. As I said, I had about 10 teams I wanted to put in these final 2 spots, so it was not an easy decision. But up first, as my number 10 seed in the college football playoffs, it is, I'm wearing them actually today, if you're watching on YouTube, the Texas A&M Aggies. I trust their brand of football, their play in the trenches, and their head coach to get to a minimum of 9-3, if not 10-2. I think they'll take on the Oregon Ducks in the opening round, in what should be a nice litmus test here for the Big Ten versus SEC conversation. So there is my fourth SEC team in the college football playoffs. And that leaves one spot in the Spring Blake College Football Playoffs for the 2025 season. I considered Miami, but I couldn't put a team in that didn't make the conference title game in a weak ACC. I considered Utah and Georgia Tech, who both made it to their conference title games but couldn't punch their automatic tickets in by winning it. I considered Michigan, Indiana, USC, and Washington, but couldn't clearly paint a 10-2 record with their schedules, and I also don't believe their 9-3 resumes in the Big Ten will match a 9-3 record in the SEC. I considered LSU and Ole Miss, but I have too many questions surrounding significant parts of their rosters. I still need to see the trenches at LSU. I still need to see the defense at Ole Miss. I considered Florida, a team I so badly wanted to place in here, but was scared away because at the end of the day, DJ Lagway's inability to be healthy thus far in his career gives me no assurances that that will happen in the 2025 season. So, in the end, for my final spot in the college football playoffs, I went with one of the most improved teams in the nation, one that will have a remarkable resume, even if they finish the year at 9-3. And the team that has my Heisman winning quarterback leading the way. My 11th and final spot in the college football playoff belongs to the Oklahoma Sooners. So that is my college football playoffs. As you all can see and hear, it is perfect and without issue. I'm sure everybody is going to love the fact that I put in 5 SEC teams without a second Big 12 team, without a second ACC team, and without a 4th Big 10 team. It's ballsy. Scared money don't make money. Is it scared money? Broke money? Scared money don't make money. I just think it's that kind of year, people. I just think with the level of competition between the 1st and the 9th team in the SEC compared to the 1st and the 9th in the Big 10, ACC, Big 12, it just does not match what we are going to see in the Southeastern Conference this year. So that's my bracket. Just a few final things outside of a Texas-Oklahoma rematch, which is awesome. By the way, I think it would be played in Texas, those first-round games. So it would be played in Arlington and not the Cotton Bowl. I can't say I have the most exciting first couple of rounds in the college football playoffs. Oregon and Texas A&M, there's no fun rivalry or connection. They have two very different styles of football. Actually, the Oregon run game might be a lot of ground and pound, which would go up nicely with Texas A&M's defense, but I think of their offense probably will be a little bit more of that pass attack group out there. Ohio State Baylor is something that we talked about. It'd be a pretty nice intro to the college football playoffs for the defending national champs. And obviously, Notre Dame versus JMU is going to favor the Dukes because why wouldn't it? So, not the most exciting first round. And honestly, the way the bracket shakes out, and if you're listening on a social clip and I've made a graphic really cool, I don't think I made one for the YouTube. I'll just tell you what the second round matchups would potentially be. It's a lot of stuff that we've already seen. You could have Notre Dame versus Georgia in a rematch from the 2024 college football playoffs, or Clemson versus Texas in another rematch from the 2024 college football playoffs. Penn State versus Oregon for what would be the second time this season and the third if you go back to their conference title game in 2024. That being said, Ohio State versus Alabama, that game would rock. That game would be sick. So I can't say, I've seen a lot of people do their college football playoff predictions, and it's we've got LSU traveling to Notre Dame, and we've got Georgia versus Oregon, and it's Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart. I don't have a lot of that. Don't call me out here for trying to get clicks. This worked out to be kind of boring. Either way, it's perfect. It's my picks. I'm sticking with it. You can't tell me shit. My college football playoffs for the 2025 season. We are rolling right along here. I got to be honest with you guys. You know, the last few episodes, honestly, since the first one, I have had to take countless drink breaks to chug along on some water. I have not had to do that here, and it's kind of making the show go a lot faster. I also love, don't get me wrong, I think the funny cuts, and here, let's just do one right now.
My name's Blake.
See, they're fun. It's fun. It makes me feel good. That being said, it's a lot cooler when I don't have to do them because it actually just sounds like an actual show. So, I've given you my conference title picks. I have given you my college football playoffs. We have got one final thing to do on this show here today. As I have told you all over the last few episodes, as you all know by now, I am going to war with Chat GPT this college football season to find out who is the bigger ball knower, Spring Blake or AI. And just so that we can keep all of these in the same clip, whether for socials or YouTube, I want to give us a little refresher what we're doing here, and we're going to finish it out today as well too with our preseason part of the competition. We've got 3 team totals that we have taken in each conference, myself and Chat GPT, over this amount of wins, under this amount of wins. We're tracking all of that. We are also putting 3 futures on national champions and Heisman winners, and that way we are going to be able to have some stuff at the end of the year to keep chasing. And then every Saturday, starting this Saturday, Chat GPT and myself will be going head-to-head, taking 5 plays that we'd like across the board, and we're going to track those every week to see by the end of the year who knows ball more. So, one last thing before we get into the preview. These bets are and will always be presented by FanDuel. Odds exclusively by FanDuel. Now, I obviously am not sponsored by FanDuel, and I'm not claiming that here. I get less than, I'm happy if I get 50 views on a YouTube video. I'm not sponsored by FanDuel here. However, we will always use them until we are sponsored by them, because I did so well on DraftKings 3 seasons ago, I believe, that they limit how much I can bet on games. I can still do somewhat of the amounts I want on spreads and totals. I get close. Props, they don't let me do shit. So, screw you, DraftKings. I'm Team FanDuel. Ride or die. They let me do what I want to do. So, I, of course, am going to battle with ChatGPT all college football season to see who knows ball more. We have taken 3 team totals from each of the Power 4 conferences. Here is what ChatGPT has given us thus far. In the SEC, the AI system has taken Ole Miss to go over 8.5 wins, Missouri to go over 6.5 wins, and Georgia to get to the 10-win threshold over 9.5 wins. This dude is obsessed with overs. I'm looking at it right now. He just has 1 under that he took. I can't say I was that much better. I probably took 2. Either way, let's head to the Big Ten, where ChatGPT took Indiana and Illinois to go over 8.5 wins on the season, along with Michigan to go over 9.5, which I just think is really stupid. I don't see Michigan as a 10-win team. I think that'll be a loss for ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT also took 3 teams in the Big 12 to go over 8.5 wins, that being Arizona State, last year's defending conference champions, Kansas State, Chris Kleiman and Avery Johnson, really fun duo, and the red-hot Texas Tech Red Raiders, who spent $55 million in the transfer portal. All of those 3 teams to go over 8.5 wins on the season. And last but not least, in the ACC, ChatGPT has taken Clemson to go over 10.5 wins. Better win that first one against LSU. I guess that's the one they could afford to lose. Excuse me. SMU to go over 8.5 wins, and the one measly under bet they took being Florida State to go under 7.5 wins. That is ChatGPT's 12 team total bets from the Power 4 conferences heading into the year. Now, Spring Blake, the real ball knower, has the winners here. In the SEC, I've taken Texas A&M to get over 7.5 wins. Love that one. Missouri to go over 6.5 wins. That total is crazy. Kentucky to go under 4.5 wins. In the Big Ten, I have USC going over 7.5, Nebraska going over 7.5, and Illinois going under 8.5. My 3 favorite totals in the ACC are Georgia Tech over 7.5 wins. Might be my favorite play across all of these 12. Georgia Tech will be at worst an 8-win team this upcoming season. Florida State to go over 7.5 wins, and I have gotten nitty and gritty and taken the mighty Stanford Cardinals to get 4 wins on the season because I love Andrew Luck and Frank Reich. And last but not least, let's head to the Big 12 where I have 2 of my favorite plays across the entire board. Let's start that over. Last but not least, let's head to the Big 12 where I have 2 of my favorite plays of the season. Should we give it a third try? Let's give it a third try, everybody. Last but not least, let's head to the Big 12 where I have 2 of my favorite plays from the entire board this preseason. I think Utah can certainly eclipse the 7.5 win total set for them, and the same goes for Kansas at 6.5 if they get a full season out of Jalen Daniels. So those are the 2 I absolutely love in the Big 12, and if you know me, you know I'm going to get gritty with the Houston Cougars to get over 5.5 wins because I am a Connor Wegman guy until the day I die. The year of Wegman. So that is all of my 12 favorite win totals for the upcoming season. Now it's time to hit on our 3 national title futures, Heisman futures, as we wrap a bow on the preseason. So without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling. Everybody, just sit there. My plays are better. You know my plays are better. I'm giving you the winners. Don't side with the AI. All right. Of course, now my throat's getting sore as soon as I jinx it. We're almost at the finish line. Chat GPT's national championship futures, and I included the little descriptions as to why they said why. They don't sound like ball knowers to me, but whatever. The first future to win it all for Chat GPT, it's the Texas Longhorns at plus 550, citing them to be the betting favorite, chalk pick, having elite recruiting and great roster depth. I can't read any of that sentence. Let's try that again. Texas Longhorns, ChatGPT's first pick to win it all this season, citing them having elite recruiting, great roster depth, and also being the betting favorite on the market. Their second pick to win it all this year, the Georgia Bulldogs at plus 700. I really like that one. I almost made it mine, but I didn't want to. Citing their dominance in the SEC, strong program continuity. And the last one they took was the Penn State Nittany Lions, also at plus 700, citing them returning key talented players and having overall good experience for the offensive core. I don't like their descriptions. It doesn't sound like they're talking like a ball knower, but those are the 3 national champ futures for ChatGPT: Texas, Georgia, and Penn State. Now let me give you the good ones. One of them I already have. Springblake National Championship futures, my first one being the Penn State Nittany Lions. If we are just following trends in this sport, it worked for Michigan, it worked for Ohio State. Everybody says it won't happen for Penn State. It hasn't happened yet. One of the best rosters at every position group, best coordinator duo, a good head coach, a really talented quarterback. I love the receiving room. Penn State at plus 700. I think they're 4 down in the betting market. I think they're 3rd or 4th favorite. Can we pull that up for a second? Where is that? They're 3rd. Okay, and they're tied for 2nd, so it's really not that far off. Penn State, good value there. I think they should be the favorite to win it all. My second national championship future. Let's try that again so I can click back over here. My second future for the College Football National Championship in 2025 are the Alabama Crimson Tide. You have to know by now, if you've been watching this show, and if you haven't, welcome, thank you for joining, how much I am in on this Alabama season. Regular season, second best record in the SEC regular season. SEC champions, first overall seed in the college football playoffs. Kalen DeBoer wins big games. I think they're going to go on a run here. Plus 1,000. I like the value there for Alabama. They are my second future to win it all. And my third and final one, I've bent the knee. It's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. You can get them at plus 1,500. The roster, man, outside of Alabama, maybe Penn State is my favorite. So if you can see, my 3 here are just what I think are the best rosters. I also think all 3 have really good coaching staffs. Notre Dame, I think they're going to be in the mix. I think an 11-1 season is still in fold, and if you have that, you have some quality wins there. If you can get the 5 seed, again, that 5 seed is still pretty nice because you get 12 in round 1, you get 4. It's a little bit easier of a path into the championship semifinals. So my 3 futures to win it all this year: Penn State at plus 700, Alabama at plus 1,000, Notre Dame at plus 1,500. And last but not least, we are going to finish here with some Heisman futures for the season. I should have teased this at the beginning of the episode. Chat GPT blew my mind when giving me their 3 favorite Heisman futures this upcoming season. Now, the first 2 make some sense here. Arch Manning is going to be Chat GPT's first future placed to win the Heisman, citing him to be a high-profile quarterback with elite upside, has public momentum as well, should Texas be one of the best teams in the nation. So he's basically saying, it is basically saying, high-profile quarterback, really high upside. If Texas is good, he'll be the reason why. So Arch Manning at plus 700 is Chat GPT's first Heisman future. At number 2, they went with Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver from Ohio State. They said it's rare value for a talented wide receiver, and he has a strong team environment. I don't know what that means. It doesn't sound like a ball knower. That sounds like just kind of pulling strings here. But anyway, Jeremiah Smith, ChatGPT's second future to win the Heisman. This third one, when it spat it out, I spat water onto my phone, and ChatGPT said, "Help, I'm wet." They are taking Blake Horvath, quarterback at Navy, to win the Heisman. Those odds are at 400 to 1. This blew my mind so much, I went and bet it. Now, it's not going to be one of my 3. I put $10 on it because I said if AI is actually the biggest ball knower and Navy is going to produce a Heisman winning quarterback in the year 2025, I want to be on the right side of history. So they cited the massive upside if Navy should push for the best G5 spot in the playoffs. He loves the sleeper value. It loves the sleeper value. Like I said, I was floored. AI went from Arch, the favorite, Jeremiah Smith, a guy top 5, 6 in odds, and then Blake Horvath, who, don't get me wrong, is a unit. He was so good all season, fantastic in the Army-Navy game. Heisman is what we're talking about here. Blew my mind. Now, moving on into the Spring Blake Heisman futures. None of those are right because I already know who the Heisman is going to be. And that is Oklahoma's quarterback, John Mateer. He is going to win the Heisman Trophy in 2025. It has already been decided. They are going to be a top 10 team in the nation. They will be a college football playoff team with an at-large bid. They will be, at worst, a 9-3 football team, if not 10-2. I think he is going to be so dang good at Oklahoma. Now, the offensive line needs to play well for him to play well, but I like the running back room. I love the running back room. I love the wide receiver room, and I love the new offensive system, or I guess maybe the same offensive system with Ben Arbuckle coming in over from Washington State. So John Mateer is going to win the Heisman, and I'm going to cash that at plus 2,500. Great value. Go get it now before the season starts. Now, if John Mateer doesn't win the Heisman, he's going to, but if he doesn't, who are my other 2 bets? Number 2, DJ Lagway. And it's almost for the same reasons of Mateer. Florida was the final team I discussed in my 11th playoff spot in the college football playoffs. It came down to Florida and Oklahoma and who I thought could have the best resume. If DJ Lagway is healthy all year, this team, if they're in that Oklahoma spot, instead of it being the Sooners, DJ Lagway will be the Heisman. I think he's the best quarterback in the sport. There, I said it. If he's healthy, if he's playing a full season, I think he is the best quarterback in college football. Talented wide receivers, really good run game. He'll also add in with a lot on his legs. You can get DJ Lagway at plus 2,000 right now. So don't be like, oh, ChatGPT, I like your picks. You gave me plus 700 and plus 1,200. Sure, the 400 to 1 is insane. I'm giving you 2,500 plus 2,000, and I got a third and final juicy one for you. So look at the teams that I have already bought a lot of stock into. I'm not going to go anybody from Alabama, even though I do think that, Ryan Williams is really talented. Jam Miller's going to miss some time. No one on the defense is really going to win it, and I think the quarterback will just be more of a facilitator. So I don't think anyone at Alabama. Who's the other teams that I'm really in on? Penn State. Okay, well, Penn State, I love Drew Aller. I think Drew Aller is going to be fantastic. And if they're the 1 seed or the 2 seed, he probably should be heading to New York, I believe, for the Heisman ceremony. I think there's a lot of good things around Penn State defensively, in the running game, that may take away from Aller getting all the shine. That being said, there is another team that I absolutely love, a team that I took to win it all this year, one of my 3 national championship futures. And I think if they are in that position, if they are a top 4 or 5 seed in the nation by season's end, it will be on the shoulders of one man, and that man is Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. He is at plus 4,000 right now. I really love that value. It's a tough schedule, man. And not just a tough schedule. Some of the tougher teams they have on the schedule have really talented front sevens. Miami's defensive line is great. Texas A&M, really good defensive front. If Jeremiah Love puts this team on his back, if the quarterback play isn't that fantastic, if the wide receivers don't pan out, if Notre Dame gets to a spot where they're 11-1, and they're a top 4 or 5 seed in the college football playoffs, he will be at the Heisman ceremony, and then flip a coin. Hopefully they give it to the running back. So those are my 3 Heisman futures. Like I said, it's John Mateer. If you only want to take John Mateer, go right ahead. But if it's not, it'll be DJ Lagway or Jeremiah Love. That puts a bow on what I will say is my favorite episode thus far. I was just having a chat with my girl Jess downstairs. I said I feel way better. I think this is going to be the best show. Gets us right back on track just in time for the regular season. It has done just that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Spring Blake College Football Show. Again, if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, follow the channel, comment, interact with me. Let me know what you think about it. If you are listening, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, subscribe, like, 5-star review, all of that stuff. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Friday, we have got Week 0 preview. We're going to break down Iowa State versus Kansas State. We're going to go to bat with Chat GPT. It's an ugly slate. I'm going to find you my 5 best plays. I already got 4 of them. I just need 1 more. So we're going to get to all of that. We'll head into Week 0, and then boy, oh boy, it is college football season. I'm so fired up. My autism's coming out. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you in a couple days. Peace.